getting rich was never about luck. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He warned that fortune favors not those who beg for mercy, but those who understand her laws. Money works the same way. Break its rules and you remain poor, no matter how hard you struggle. Follow them, and wealth becomes predictable. Most people don't want to accept that. They prefer to believe the system is rigged, the economy is unfair, or that they were born on the wrong side of life. That story feels comforting. It removes responsibility, but it also removes power. While they repeat that story, a small minority quietly studies the rules and takes action. Years pass either way. One day you wake up older, slower, and forced to face the truth that time did not wait for your excuses. Machiavelli called this the cruelty of reality. Life punishes hesitation more brutally than failure. There is nothing more painful than realizing you had a window and you let it close. History is filled with men who stood at the edge of fortune and stepped back. Ronald Wayne is one of the clearest modern examples. He co-founded Apple alongside Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. 12 days later, fear took over. He sold his 10% stake for $800 because he couldn't tolerate uncertainty. He feared debt, lawsuits, instability. Machiavelli wrote that men judge more by the eye than by the hand. They react to what feels dangerous now, instead of what truly matters long-term. Wayne chose immediate safety over asymmetric upside. Today, that same stake would be worth over $300 billion. One decision driven by fear erased generational wealth. Not because he was foolish, but because fear felt logical in the moment. That same fear appears every time you hesitate to invest in yourself, to start something uncertain, or to risk looking foolish. You tell yourself you're being responsible. But Machiavelli would call it what it really is: a quiet surrender to short-term comfort. He warned that those who cling to security eventually lose both security and opportunity. Fear doesn't just protect you from loss, it blocks access to scale. I felt that pressure myself. At 21, I walked away from a safe, prestigious corporate path to build something of my own. Overnight, stability vanished. I went from a clear salary trajectory to making $300 a month, eating beans, working non-stop with nothing to show for it. The shame was heavier than the workload. I stopped seeing friends because I didn't want to explain why I was broke. That's the part people skip when they talk about entrepreneurship: the loneliness, the self-doubt. The voice telling you to crawl back to safety never disappears. At my lowest point, I told my partner I was done. I quit. And that night I couldn't sleep, because I knew something worse than failure was waiting for me: resentment toward myself. Machiavelli wrote that a man who abandons his path out of fear teaches fortune how to defeat him again. So instead of quitting, I did something different. I stopped trying to invent success and started studying it. Not motivational quotes, strategy. I looked at Bill Gates not as a myth, but as a system. How did he think? How did he position himself? Gates wasn't the best programmer. He controlled leverage, timing, and alliances. He understood, like Machiavelli, that power flows to those who structure advantage. I modeled those patterns. Slowly, something shifted. We landed a 120,000 deal. That single move changed everything, from survival to momentum, from desperation to a real business. The lesson wasn't talent. It was alignment with reality. At this point, most people retreat into another excuse: that's great for you, but I'm not special. That belief is statistically false. Nearly 9 out of 10 millionaires are self-made, not born rich, not handed trust funds. Ordinary people who learned the rules and acted on them. Consider Jan Koum, the immigrant founder of WhatsApp. He grew up on food stamps, taught himself coding, focused on solving a real problem instead of chasing hype. When Facebook acquired WhatsApp for $19 billion, it wasn't luck, it was patience, leverage, and value creation. Or look at Ingvar Kamprad, the founder of IKEA. He built a global empire by obsessing over efficiency and cost discipline, while living modestly himself. These men weren't chosen. They chose. The only real difference between them and everyone else was the story they told themselves early on. Machiavelli believed identity precedes destiny. If you see yourself as powerless, you act powerless. If you see money as chaotic, you never master it. Wealth is not reserved for geniuses or the lucky. It rewards those willing to accept responsibility and learn the rules. And that's what we're about to break down. Not fantasies. Laws. 10 of them. They work even if you're starting from zero. Before we go on, take a moment and reflect. Have you ever walked away from an opportunity because fear felt safer than uncertainty? Comment one word that describes that moment for you. And if this way of thinking resonates with you, subscribe to the channel and join a growing community of men who are done lying to themselves and ready to learn how power, money, and reality actually work. Ownership, value creation, capital discipline. Once you accept that wealth follows laws, the first law becomes unavoidable. Money is your responsibility. Machiavelli was ruthless on this point. He believed that blaming circumstances was the fastest way to surrender power. He wrote that men who rely on fortune rather than their own judgment are the first to fall when conditions change. The same applies to money. The moment you blame the economy, your parents, your country, or bad luck, you hand control away. But the moment you accept that your financial outcome is on you, something strange happens. Pressure turns into power. Because responsibility creates influence. Most self-made wealthy people reach this conclusion early, often through pain. Consider Howard Schultz. Long before Starbucks became a global brand, he grew up in public housing, watching his father lose his job and dignity. After an injury with no safety net, Schultz didn't turn that into resentment. He turned it into resolve. He internalized a simple rule: no one is coming to save you. Machiavelli would call this vert. The capacity to shape your fate through disciplined action. Wealth begins when you stop waiting for rescue and start treating money as a skill you must master. This is why the idea of wealth being random is so dangerous. When you believe money is luck, you behave passively. When you understand it's learnable, you start spotting patterns everywhere. You stop asking, why them? And start asking, how did they structure this? Nearly 9 out of 10 millionaires are self-made. Not because they worked harder than everyone else, but because they took ownership earlier. They stopped negotiating with reality. They accepted the rules and played accordingly. The second law flows naturally from the first: serve before you earn. Money does not respond to need. It responds to value. Machiavelli observed that power is never given out of kindness, only out of usefulness or fear. In markets, it's usefulness. If you want more money, you must become more valuable to more people. Not louder, not busier, more useful. The wealthy rarely chase money directly. They chase leverage through service. Take James Dyson. He didn't build wealth by wanting to be rich. He obsessed over a broken problem. Inefficient vacuum cleaners. He built over 5,000 failed prototypes before one finally worked. That persistence wasn't romantic, it was strategic. He understood that solving a painful problem at scale creates disproportionate reward. When you help enough people save time, reduce friction, or improve outcomes, money follows without persuasion. That's why Machiavelli warned against appearing needy. Need repels power, value attracts it. This reframes the core question. Stop asking, how do I make more money? And start asking, what problem can I solve better, cheaper, or faster than most? Wealth is an exchange. You are paid in proportion to the tension you remove from the world. That's why entire fortunes are built quietly in unglamorous industries: logistics, software infrastructure, medical devices. The market rewards results, not aesthetics. Then comes the third law. And this is where discipline separates wishful thinking from real progress: spend less, invest more. This isn't advice. It's physics. Machiavelli believed that those who waste resources in times of stability invite collapse during crisis. The modern version is lifestyle inflation. You earn more, you spend more, and nothing actually changes. Wealthy people reverse that instinct. They pay themselves first. They treat consumption as a tax on future freedom. Compounding is the silent force most people underestimate because it's invisible early on. Consider the Medici bankers in Renaissance Florence. Their power didn't come from lavish spending. It came from reinvestment, patience, and control of capital flows over decades. The same logic applies now. A dollar invested wisely keeps working long after your energy fades. A dollar spent on impulse dies instantly. That's why the rich obsess over what they keep and grow, not what they show. The fourth law expands protection. Multiply your income streams. One source of income is fragile. Machiavelli warned rulers never to rely on a single ally. Dependence creates vulnerability. Money works the same way. One paycheck, one client, one platform, and you are exposed. The average millionaire has multiple income streams, not because they chase chaos, but because they reduce risk. This doesn't mean scattering focus. It means sequencing leverage. Build one strong engine first, then add another. Consider Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx. She didn't launch 10 businesses at once. She mastered one. Then she used the cash flow and credibility to expand intelligently. Income diversification is insurance against reality changing its mood. Before we move on, pause and reflect. Do you agree that money responds to value and discipline? More than luck, comment value if this perspective shifts how you see earning and spending. Income expansion, speed, and relentless persistence. Now, when you've learned how to protect and discipline money, the next phase is expansion. This is where most people sabotage themselves. They either stay small because it feels safe, or they scatter their energy, chasing 10 ideas with no depth. Machiavelli warned against both extremes. He believed power grows through controlled expansion, not reckless ambition, and not timid restraint. The same applies to income. You don't build wealth by hoping one stream lasts forever. You build it by adding legs to the table. Relying on a single source of income is not stability, it's exposure. One employer, one client, one algorithm changes, and your entire financial structure collapses. The wealthy understand this intuitively. That's why they stack income deliberately, a core business or skill, supported by investments, equity, or assets that work while they sleep. This isn't greed, it's defense. When one stream weakens, another carries the load. Machiavelli would call this redundancy of power. Never place your fate in one hand, even if it feeds you well today. But here's the discipline most people miss. Diversification without focus is just distraction. You don't chase 10 things at once. You build one engine until it runs without you. Then you add the next. Each stream must serve a purpose: cash flow, upside, stability, optionality. This is how real financial structures are built, quietly, over time. Then comes a law that separates those who dream from those who take territory, move fast and learn. Speed beats perfection every time. Machiavelli observed that fortune is like a river. When it's calm, you prepare. When it floods, hesitation kills you. Opportunity windows work the same way. They open briefly and reward those already in motion. Waiting to feel ready is how you miss them. I learned this lesson the hard way. Early in my career, I wasted months obsessing over the perfect plan. I wanted everything polished, every detail flawless. While I was refining slides and projections, a competitor launched with something rough, but real. Then a large company entered the market looking to acquire. It came down to us and them. They had traction. We had ideas. They walked away with a 40 million acquisition. I walked away with a lesson burned into my nervous system. Execution beats elegance. A half-built bridge that people can cross is worth more than a perfect blueprint that never leaves the desk. Machiavelli would have called my mistake a failure to seize the moment. He believed delay was often more dangerous than error, because error can be corrected, but time can never be reclaimed. If I had moved sooner, even imperfectly, my life would look very different today. That loss cured me of waiting. Now I move before comfort arrives. I let reality teach me faster than theory ever could. And that leads directly into the sixth law: never give up. Persistence is undefeated. The only guaranteed way to lose is to quit. Every wealthy person you admire endured periods where the math didn't work, the feedback was brutal, and the progress was invisible. What separates them from everyone else is not talent. It's tolerance for discomfort. Most people quit one step before the breakthrough, because pain convinces them they're going the wrong way. Machiavelli warned that adversity is often the test before reward, not the signal to retreat. History proves this relentlessly. Take Soichiro Honda. Before building Honda into a global brand, he endured repeated failures. Bombing raids destroyed his factory. Investors rejected him. He persisted anyway, refining, adapting, continuing. Had he quit early, there would be no Honda Motor Company today. Or look at Arianna Huffington. Her second book was rejected by 36 publishers. 36. That's enough rejection to break almost anyone. She didn't interpret it as a verdict on her potential. She treated it as friction on the path. Years later, she built the Huffington Post into a media empire. Persistence doesn't guarantee success on a schedule. It guarantees survival long enough for probability to tilt in your favor. Most people don't lose because they're incapable. They lose because they get tired of believing. They stop on the 10th attempt, not realizing the 11th was the one that mattered. Machiavelli believed endurance was a form of dominance. If you can outlast chaos, you eventually inherit what others abandon. Before we move forward, reflect honestly. Have you ever quit something too early that, in hindsight, deserved more time? Comment one word that describes what made you stop. Mastery, purpose, relationships, and the closing call. If persistence keeps you in the game, mastery determines how fast you rise. This is where Machiavelli becomes brutally practical. He believed that power favors those who study reality as it is, not as they wish it to be. That's why the seventh law matters: model the masters. Success leaves patterns. People who win at scale rarely do so randomly. They follow structures, timing, and leverage that can be studied, borrowed, and adapted. Reinventing the wheel is not noble. It's inefficient. Whatever financial level you want to reach, someone has already mapped part of that terrain. Your job is not to copy their personality, but to extract their principles. This is how empires are built quietly. When I was at my lowest point, what saved me was swallowing my ego and admitting I didn't know enough. I studied how Bill Gates positioned Microsoft early, how he controlled distribution instead of just product, how he dominated a narrow lane before expanding. That mindset shift alone changed how I made decisions. I borrowed clarity before I earned it. Machiavelli would approve. He believed wise rulers learned from the victories and mistakes of others, so they didn't have to pay full price themselves. Learning secondhand is not weakness, it's leverage. Every biography, every case study, every mentor compresses decades into days if you study correctly. That leads directly into the 8th law of invest in your own growth. You are the asset. Everything else flows from that. Markets change. Industries rise and fall. Skills compound. Machiavelli argued that the most dangerous position is stagnation. Those who stop upgrading themselves are eventually replaced. Wealthy people understand this intuitively. They reinvest into their mind, their skill set, their perspective, not because it feels good, but because it works. Benjamin Franklin said, "An investment in knowledge pays the best interest." He was right long before the modern economy existed. The book you read today might spark an idea that changes your trajectory. The course you take could double your earning power. The mentor you listen to might save you 5 years of blind struggle. These aren't expenses, they're force multipliers. My entire career is built on borrowed wisdom, biographies, failures, frameworks. That was my real education. And it paid off, because I treated learning as survival, not entertainment. Then comes a law most people misunderstand until it's too late. Find your why beyond money. Machiavelli observed that ambition without purpose burns itself out. Money alone is a weak motivator. It excites you briefly, then leaves you empty or impatient. A mission carries you through years of friction. When you know why you're building, you tolerate pain differently. For some, the mission is freedom for their family. For others, it's proving something to themselves. For some, it's creating something meaningful in the world. In my case, the mission grew from pain. I didn't want others to struggle blindly the way I did. That purpose keeps me engaged long after the financial pressure faded. Ironically, when money stops being the only goal, it often grows faster. People can feel when you're committed to something real. They trust it. They support it. Finally, the 10th law, take care of your network. Relationships are hidden leverage. Machiavelli was clear that alliances determine outcomes. No one builds power alone. The same applies to wealth. Opportunities often come through people, not platforms. A conversation, a referral, a partnership. Skills matter, but relationships accelerate them. This isn't fake networking or pretending to care. That always backfires. This is about genuine value exchange, helping people, being reliable, building trust over time. Every major breakthrough in my career came through relationships, partners, mentors, audiences. Even this moment right now is a connection forming. Community compounds just like capital. If you stayed to the end, that already tells me something important about you. Most people consume information to feel productive. A smaller group uses it to change direction. Machiavelli warned that knowing the rules without acting on them is worse than ignorance, because it creates the illusion of progress while your position stays exactly the same. The laws you just heard are not motivation. They are consequences. Ignore them, and 2026 will look exactly like every other year you've already wasted. Apply them, even imperfectly, and momentum begins to bend in your favor. Getting rich in 2026 will not come from a lucky break, a viral moment, or suddenly becoming smarter. It will come from alignment, responsibility instead of blame, value instead of chasing money, speed instead of waiting, persistence instead of quitting, leverage instead of dependence, purpose instead of burnout, relationships instead of isolation. Wealth compounds quietly for those who respect how power actually moves. The gap between those who win and those who watch is not effort, it's obedience to reality. So here's the real question. What is the hidden law you've been violating without realizing it? The one that has quietly been keeping you stuck. Comment the hidden law below as a commitment to identify it and correct it this year. Because 2026 doesn't reward intention, it rewards execution.